Okay, so we're now at the beginning of round 7 and you should have slip stitched into that 2 chain space. And carrying the white behind, we're going to work 5 double crochet into that chain space. So a chain to start, and then carrying the white behind, 5 double crochet into the chain space. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then your next stitch is into the next visible stitch. There is technically the top of this one, but it's hidden underneath the double crochets you've just made. So it's into the next visible stitch, which is technically the second one along. You're going to start in green and finish in white. And yarn over twice, and it's a front post double treble round the front post double treble from round 5, finishing in green. And you want to work a double crochet into the stitch before the chain space, starting in green, finishing in white. Okay, so now you're making popcorn stitches. There's popcorn stitch into that skipped stitch from the previous round. So yarn over, hook through, push the chain out of the way, 5 trebles into that chain. And 5, and finish the 5th one off in green. You can find the green. So yarn up, find the first of the trebles, hook in front to back, pick up the green, pull it through. Then your next stitch is a double crochet into the next chain space. Start it in green, finish it in white. And then another popcorn stitch into this skipped stitch. So yarn in, hook in, push the chains back, 5 trebles, fifth one finish in green, pull the yarn up, find the first stitch in front to back, pick up the green, pull it through. And a double crochet into the next visible stitch. You're going to skip the chain space there, and a double crochet into the next stitch, starting in green, finishing in white. Yarn over twice, front post double treble round the previous front post double treble, finishing in green. Then you're going to skip the next stitch and work into the stitch before the chain space. Double crochet, and then you're back to the beginning of the round. So it's 5 double crochet into the corner, four, 5, double crochet into the next visible stitch, starting in green, finishing in white, yarn over twice, front post double treble on the previous front post double treble, starting in white, finishing in green, double crochet into the stitch before the chain space, starting in green, finishing in white, popcorn stitch into the skipped stitch from the previous round, double crochet into the next chain space, starting in green, finishing in white, popcorn stitch into the skipped stitch, and then if you look at what you have left, you have 3 stitches, so you're going to work into a double crochet starting in green, finishing in white into the first one, front post double treble in white around this one, skip that stitch and a double crochet into the stitch before the chain space, ready for your 5 into there. Okay, and I shall meet you back at the beginning. I'm going to leave the popcorn stitches in just so you can see how they work for the following row, but I will pull them out before we get to round 9. Okay, so we're nearly at the end of round 7. I've done my last popcorn stitch, and you should have 3 stitches left to work into before you get to the corner that you started with. So of those 3 stitches, so double crochet into the first one, starting in green and finishing in white, front post double treble round the front post double treble, finishing in green, and then you have the 1 stitch left here. So carry the white behind, double crochet into that one. It is quite a tricky one because it's a slipped stitch from a previous round. So double crochet. So now you've completed the round and you need to slip stitch into the centre, up to the centre of this one. So if you look at what you've got 7 green stitches in each of the corners. So you have 1 stitch here, so you need to count back to the 6th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's the chain 1 at the beginning of the round, and you're going to slip stitch into this stitch here. Try and slip stitch fairly loosely because you're going to be slipping over a couple of these, and if you do them too tight they're very tricky to work into at the end of the next round. So carrying the white behind, slip stitch into the next one, and then you want to slip stitch into the centre, which will be the 4th stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So you're going to slip into the next stitch, again carrying the white behind and not too tight to that one, then slip into the centre stitch. You don't need to carry the white at this point, just pop it out of the way, slip into the centre, and then you can pull this one snug because you're going to be working into there. Okay, so as I said, you should have 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 green stitches in each corner, and it's definitely worth counting. And then after the 7 green stitches you should have white, green, white, green, white, green, white. So that covers 7 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stitches. So 7 in the corner and then 7 stitches alternating white, green, white, green, white, green, white. Okay, so this next round you don't need to carry the white along. It is half trebles all the way round, but I highly recommend that you mark the centre stitch of the corner, because the next round it's quite tricky to know which stitches you're skipping and which stitches you're using, and if you've got your corners marked it can help you set up the row 9. So 2 chain and 2 half trebles into the corner stitch. So, that's definitely not right. So, 2, and mark that stitch, because the 2 chain there are your first technical half treble. Mark that one, and it's your centre stitch at the corner. Okay, so that's 3 into the corner stitch, then you've got 3 green ones, 1, 2, 3, and then into the next 7 stitches, so that includes all the white ones. 1, 2. This, it looks a bit like one strand of yarn, but it is actually 2. The top of the popcorn stitch. Six, 7, into the next 3 green, 2, 3. The 4th stitch is the centre, so it's 3 into this stitch, corner stitch, 1, and mark the middle stitch of those 3. I mean, you might find that you only need to mark the first couple of squares you do once you get into the rhythm and understand how it works, but it's definitely worth it at the beginning. So it's 13 stitches across the side, so 3 green, 7 alternating, 3 green at the end, then 3 half trebles into the corner, mark the centre stitch all the way round, and I shall join you back here. Okay, here we are, almost at the end of round 8, and I just thought I'd show you the end just so you don't overshoot here. So you've done white, green, white, green, white, green. So half treble to the next white, and you should have 3 green stitches left. That, if you can see it, is not a stitch, it is the corner stitch, the end of the where you've slipped into the corner stitch, so you have the 2 stitches in the one. So it's just 3 left here, and these, ooh, very squeaky, are the slipped stitches that if you've done them too tightly you will struggle to get into. 2, 3, and that's the last stitch of this round. I'm struggling here. and then you're slipping into the second chain of the 2 chain here. So you've got, that's the centre stitch of the corner, that one, that's the third, and the 2 chain count as the first, so you're just slipping into there, and if you just bring the white up at this point, ready for the next round, so slip into there, again not too tightly because you'll be needing that one, and then slip into the corner stitch that you've got marked. You can take the marker out. And this one you can pull up tight. Okay, so that's the end of round 8. Okay, and then we'll come back and do rounds 9 and 10.